Hello, everyone. So welcome in this edition of the 1515 Mayor's Energy Talk organized by Energy Cities. I am Mélanie Bourgeois, your host for today. So Energy Cities is the European network of future-proof cities. We have around more than 1,000 members across 30 countries. And it's a network of future-proof cities. So in this 1515 webinar format, Energy Cities will give the floor to local elected leaders to present what they are proud of in their cities and also what challenged them. The format is simple. The first 15 minutes I exchange with the deputy mayor that we have today, and then 15 minutes of questions and answer with the audience. So be ready to ask your questions in the chat. A kind reminder that the webinar of today will be recorded and we will use it for our podcast series, City Stories. Today's edition will focus on housing and more precisely on how to better use our housing stock. Many cities are facing the housing crisis. They need at the same time to grant housing rights to everyone, to preserve nature, to the resources, and to make the energy transition happen. The European Parliament is preparing a report on the European housing. The European Commission will propose next year a European affordable housing strategy. So housing is very much at the center of the attention right now. Today, we welcome Mr. Dennis de Vries, Deputy Mayor of Utrecht in the Netherlands, who is in charge, among other things, of housing. Welcome, Mr. de Vries.
Good morning, and good morning all.
Thank you for being with us today. I will start directly with the first questions. So Utrecht is the fastest growing cities in the Netherlands. I have read it is one of the happiest cities in the world as well, with life quality standards. So how come that such a lucky place can be affected by the housing crisis? Tell us more about the current situation in Utrecht and what measures you have already implemented so far.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and indeed, Utrecht is one of the fastest growing cities and also one of the happiest cities. So that's a good thing. But of course, just like other European cities, we face a housing crisis at the moment. And one of the explanations is that our city is growing really fast. So it's expected to grow from 350,000 to around 450,000 inhabitants in the next 20 years. And we have also limited space in our city. So there's little land available for new development. So most growth must be accommodated within the existing urban area. And we have also a decline in affordable housing. So for example, if you look at social housing, the past decade, it dropped from 35% to 32%. And on the other side, the demand, especially amongst young people, but also vulnerable groups, has increased. So of course, the result in our city is that there are long waiting times. So the average waiting time is around 11 years at the moment. And Utrecht is also, because it's a popular city, but it's also a very expensive city. So we have high rents and also high prices, and that makes the city less accessible, for example, for students or young professionals or also middle income families. And of course, we have some measures we implemented in our city to regain more control over housing policy. And the first thing is we have ambitious construction targets. So we aim to grow by around 3,000 homes per year, and 75% of that is affordable. And what we mean by affordable, it's a social rent, but also in the mid-range sector, mid-range rent, and also affordable purchase. And we have also some regulation and policy changes adopted in our city. So one of them is the vacancy ordinance, and that's introduced in October 23, and it's to prevent homes from sitting empty. Another one is a buy-to-let ban, and those are measures to prevent homes from being bought only for rental investments. And as a result, the share of homes bought by investors dropped, and the proportion of first-time buyers doubled in our city. And we have also shared housing incentives. So, for example, no permit is required for up to 3 persons who would like to share a home. And one policy change I would like to highlight is our effort to promote housing cooperatives. And it's good for the city because of the affordability. So those cooperatives, they remain affordable forever. It's good because of social value. They strengthen social cohesion in neighborhoods, for example, through shared spaces or support for urgent housing seekers. And it's also about self-determination. Residents, they have control and ownership over their own living environment, and they can realize their own housing wishes. And the municipality of Utrecht actively encourages those housing corporations. And we do that, for example, to make new plots available. And the first tender is already started. And we are now selecting a housing cooperative to develop a new plot on its own. And we have also organizational support. So initiatives, they can receive compensation and also assistance in setting up their cooperative and realizing their dream. And we do that by, for example, subsidies. Another initiative we are now working on is long-term affordable ownership, because we have the rental sector, but also the purchase sector. And in Utrecht, we see that the share of affordable owner-occupied homes has dropped from 19% to just 10% in 4 years. So it's dropping really fast. And that's really because the house prices are going up really fast. So and it's much faster than the incomes. So the house price is nearly doubled in 12 years, and that making it increasingly difficult for first-time buyers and middle-income families to purchase a home. So to this end, we're exploring a leasehold model where the owner can receives a discount on the rent based on their income and assets. And this reduces the costs and makes it possible for buyers with a low middle income to purchase the property. And in addition, we stipulate in the leasehold contract that the property must be resold to the target group again. And hereby we ensure that both the seller shares in the property values growth and the new buyer exactly knows what their costs will be after the purchase. And the most important thing is we keep those houses available for the middle income population. And finally, I would like to say something about our approach to bad landlords. Because one of the excesses in the housing crisis is bad landlord practices, and some landlords are taking advantage of the housing shortage. So we have active enforcement in our city and inspections. So Utrecht has a dedicated team that carries out targeted inspections of landlords suspected of abuses such as excessive rents, poor maintenance, intimidation, or lack of permits. And those inspectors, they collect signals, build cases, and also intervene when necessary. We also work with data analysis and network approach. So the municipality, we make use of data analysis to identify patterns of systematic misconduct, and also focuses on networks of rogue landlords. So it's not just the individual landlords. So they work together sometimes in a network. And in 2024, 18 of those networks were tackled, with 5 successfully closed. And tenants, they can contact the municipality of Utrecht to help with complaints about high rents, poor maintenance, or unclear contracts. And we help asserting their rights, for example, through rent reductions or legal action. And when necessary, we work effectively with the police. And we can also fine them. So we have enforcement measures. So the municipality can impose substantial fines and force landlords to improve those housing conditions. And repeat offenders are subject to intense monitoring and enforcement. So those are some of the measures we have implemented in our city.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the overview. It's very inspiring to see that Utrecht is implementing various solutions, trying to cope with this housing crisis. I will maybe pick up on what you said about the vacant spaces. At Energy Cities, we are very focused on the idea of housing for everyone decently, while at the same time avoiding urban sprawl, reducing land use, adopting a sufficiency approach to the urban development. We see a lot of potential in making better use of the existing housing stock. So how does Utrecht approach this? What concrete steps have you taken in that direction? You mentioned already vacancy, so I would be happy to get to know a bit more about this.
Yes, thank you. We have multiple measures. So one significant thing is people prefer to share a home rather than being forced to stay with their parents, because we have a lot of young people in our city, and they would like to have their own home, and they would like to share it also together. So sharing a home is also more affordable than renting a property for yourself. And the trend of decreasing household size in our city continues. So the households is getting smaller and smaller, with an increasing number of single-person households. So for this reason as well, shared housing is really growing in popularity. And in Utrecht, we consider shared housing as an important contribution to addressing the housing shortage. So new construction alone cannot solve the issues, we think. So more people also need to be accommodated in existing homes and in existing home stock. And so to achieve this, we are implementing some measures. So, for example, like I told before, up to 3 individuals, they can share a home without requiring a permit. We further promote shared housing by collaborating with the housing associations in our city and other partners. We also encourage the development of high-quality shared housing concepts in new construction projects. We are relaxing the rules for splitting up, so larger homes can be used by more households. And we also stimulate building on top of existing buildings, so to make better use of the housing stock. And indeed, I told before about a vacancy ordinance. So we introduced a vacancy ordinance to prevent unused housing. And our principle is that every vacant home is one too many. So the vacancy ordinance came into effect in October 23. And so far, it appears that the ordinance has a preventative effect, as many property owners, they report vacancies to avoid municipal enforcement. And additionally, the number of long-term vacant homes has decreased. And for example, 5 months after the ordinance came into effect, we sent a letter to around 2,600 owners of empty homes. And these letters informed owners that the property would soon be vacant for more than 6 months, and that they were required to report this to the municipality. And otherwise, a fine could be imposed. And as a result of these actions, the municipality received more than 700 responses from homeowners about their vacant properties within just 1 week. And in 23, 1,976 homes had been vacant for more than 1 year. And 2 years later, this number has decreased to 1,565 homes. And that's a reduction of more than 20% in long-term vacancy among private homeowners. And I have an example in practice. So we have some flats in our city, and they are called the Qatar flats. And the owner, is a Canadian hedge fund. And they had kept the apartments in the building vacant for really a long period of time, and possibly with the aim of eventually selling the entire property, the flats, as a part of their investment strategy. And the value of those apartments had almost doubled over the past 10 years because the value is rising in our city. So thanks to the vacancy ordinance, we were able to oblige the owner, it was through fines, to put the apartments back into use. And we also held discussions with them. To avoid being fined, the owner eventually rented out the apartments to students. And in this way, unnecessary vacancy was prevented, and additional housing was made available within the existing stock. So I think that's a good example of how we do it in the city.
Yes, indeed, and it's great to hear also that you have very concrete results to measure you put in place quite recently, and I'm sure everything around housing, sharing housing is also great for social cohesion in Utrecht. So that's amazing to hear. Of course, many of these challenges are shared across Europe. The EU institutions, as I said at the beginning, have committed to tackle the issue, even though the housing is mainly a national competence. Some structural measures can be taken at the European level to make housing more affordable, available, and sustainable. The Parliament is there for working on a report on the housing crisis, and the European Commission is preparing a European affordable housing plan that we expect next year. So from your perspective as Deputy Mayor, what should this initiative at the European level include for really supporting cities like Utrecht?
Yeah, well, I would like to mention 3 things. The first one is fast expansion of state aid rules for affordable housing, and I know they are working on it already. We would like housing associations in our city to provide housing also for those middle income groups. And this will also ensure long-term affordable housing. So we need for an expansion of the service of general economic interests, the exemption decision 2012, allowing more support for affordable rental housing providers for those middle income groups. And well, like I told before, it's absolutely a move in the right direction that the European Commission is planning to making those mid-market rental possible through state aid mechanisms. And that's a guarantee fund and also with housing associations. So I would say, please make it happen. The better, the sooner the better. It's really urgent in our city because those middle income groups are leaving the city because they can't find a house anymore. So the second one is public investments for affordable housing and healthy urban living. So in Utrecht, our leading ambition is healthy urban living. And we try to be an example for other cities if it comes to sustainable developments, with a lot of attention for affordability, sustainability, and also amenities. And our lesson is that not all basic needs for healthy urban living can be realized. So financing affordable housing and also provide sufficient public spaces and also amenities is, when it comes together, it's a big financial challenge. So the EU can help by providing funds and financing options to help stressed areas by, for example, creating a dedicated funding line for housing that integrates all those issues, so social, environmental aspects, to addressing the housing crisis. And at the moment, there are now a lot of overlapping financial lines, and the fragmentation makes it very difficult for cities and housing providers to access those resources quickly but also efficiently. And another one is also, if it comes to the European Investment Bank, I would say improve European Investment Bank financing conditions by, for example, extending the duration of loans for at least 15 years, like with, for example, infrastructure, and also offer loans at minimal interest rates with EU support to subsidize interest costs if it's needed, reduce or remove co-financing requirements for public and non-profit housing, lower the minimum project size for European Investment Bank eligibility, so that smaller and community-led initiatives, for example, can also benefit from financing. And the third one I would like to mention is also EU regulations that supports affordable and sustainable housing and also create a level playing field. So I hope the Commission will also improve the business case for circular, energy neutral, and also bio-based construction. Because without additional and progressive ambitions and also policies, current frontrunners cannot compete with the still traditional market. And furthermore, the scarcity of critical raw materials becomes more obvious, and worldwide political tensions also increase. So therefore, it's really key to become less dependent on other regions and also become more self-sufficient. So I would say innovation is key in that aspect. Another one is creating a level playing field. And I would say if it comes to creating a level playing field, it's Europe at its best. So it's by implementing legislative packages if it comes to sustainability and innovation. And the EU can help governments and housing developers by setting the standard or even the minimum and giving the market a clear growth path. So if it comes to building regulations with increasingly ambitious and achievable goals, and by creating a level playing field, I think also the costs can be reduced. And I would like to illustrate a local example here in the Netherlands. At the moment, a Dutch commission advised on reducing environmental legislation regulation in order to accelerate the construction of housing. And we foresee that adapting these national regulations will lead to housing of a lesser quality and also a decreased healthy living environment. It does not contribute to developing within our planetary boundaries. So we think that's really the wrong direction. So I would say municipalities are really helped by those three measures.
Thank you. Those are some very clear message for EU policymakers. Thanks again for sharing Utrecht experience. Now I would like to open the floor to our audience. So please raise your hand or write in the chat. Feel free to ask some questions you have for Mr. De Vries to have some precision on Utrecht project and measures, or ask his opinion on a specific idea that you have, the floor is yours. Yeah, otherwise I also have questions. People are ready to ask their own ones. Yeah, I was wondering the measures you are implementing, for example, on vacancy. I imagine that they are very staff consuming,
Yeah,
that this is a resource that maybe is scarce as well. At least this is what other cities are reporting. Yeah, do you have something to say on this? Is this a challenge for you?
it is. Yeah, it is also a challenge in our city because all those, if it comes to vacancy, all those empty homes, you have to visit them. So if it comes to the staff in our city, it's really intensively because you have to go to the addresses and you have to check if there is vacancy. So it's very time consuming. And it's also expensive in a way because you have to pay all those salaries in the city. So it's really a choice that we have made in our city here locally. And one of our biggest goals here is to work on housing in the city because that's the biggest issue over here. So and we say that's really expensive. So, but it is a big problem. And what's also a big problem if it comes to vacancy is that we have a lot of vacant homes in our city. So it takes some time to go to have meetings with all the owners. Maybe if it is necessary to work with fines. It takes time to seek for new people who wanted to rent, for example, or buy the house, or I don't know, or new owners. And on the other hand, there are still new empty vacant homes with vacancy are coming in. So it's like I would say a big wave. It's you have to work with the existing vacancy, but also new vacancy coming in. So it's really time consuming, but also expensive. Yeah. So
And a huge potential. So
yeah.
it's great, but it's indeed very time consuming. We have one question in the chat. As Utrecht has such a great reputation, I guess you are attracting a lot of tourists as well. How can you prevent tourism to make the rent raises too much for residents?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Amsterdam is really nearby, so it's like half an hour by car. And most tourists they go to Amsterdam, so I would say just go to Amsterdam. That's a good thing. But of course, Utrecht's a beautiful city, and a lot of tourists sometimes they go from Amsterdam to Utrecht, but they stay in Amsterdam, so they sleep in Amsterdam. We have less hotels in our city, so it's a smaller opportunity to stay in our city. So that's policy because we of course we like tourists, but not too much, not too crowded. And of course we have also some platforms if it comes to Airbnb, for example, or other platforms. And we have local policy if it comes to those platforms. So people who want to want to rent a home for tourists, for example, we have some regulations. So it's not the whole year long. It's just for a couple of days. And we have also a lot of controls if it comes to those platforms and the people in the city who work with those platforms. And of course, also that controls. If we want to control it with the people who work for the city, it's also expensive and time consuming. But of course, that's also the choice that we make because we think housing is really important in our city.
Thank you. One more question in the chat. Despite the common assumption that only people from disadvantaged environment are in need, it could be just people like the well-dressed woman sitting next to us, or on the metro, or daughter's teacher, or the man walking his dog in the park, that are in need of housing. So who is the most in need of social housing in Utrecht?
Wow, that's a really good question, and the answer is also a bit in the question, but because indeed it's really a big group, and of course we see it on the street at the moment because we have a lot of homeless people at the moment in our city. So there you see the people who are really in need. So we are working on housing first, for example. So it starts with a house and a roof above your head, but of course the group is bigger because it's in the whole society, and it can also be people who are who have a good income, or in the middle groups, or in the higher groups of class in our city. And one of the main issues is that a lot of people are getting divorced at the moment. And if you look at the group of people who are divorcing at the moment, half of them, they have at the moment have a problem in finding a new house, because we don't have any houses at the moment available for them. So well, that's really a big issue at the moment. So people who are getting divorced and who can't find a house at the moment. So indeed, it's really a big group. It's not only the lower income group, but if it comes to the lower income group, their network is smaller. So most of the time they have a smaller network, and they end. Yeah, well, we see them on the street at the moment. So that's really a big problem. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, one reason behind the housing crisis is that the offer we have now on the market is not suiting the kind of demand, for example, for smaller apartments, because we are also
Yeah.
facing in many cities these demographic changes, like smaller dwellings, smaller families. So that's indeed one issue. We have time for one more questions, and then I will close. Yeah, one more in the chat. Thank you for the presentation. I would be interested to hear more about splitting houses. You mentioned you are relaxing rules to support this. Which rules are these mostly? Which one are you relaxing? And I've heard that other Dutch cities are not as much in favor of splitting houses, as they are fear it will make it more difficult for families to find housing. So what
Yeah.
would be your thought on this?
Well, every city is different, of course. And here in Utrecht, if you look at our existing housing stock, we have a lot of bigger houses in the city. That's because of the past, when the families were bigger also. And now the existing housing stock is not in line with the housing needs of people. So that's why we are making it more easy to split the houses. And in the past, it was forbidden in some parts of the city. Or you needed a permit to do that, and we are making it more easy at the moment. So it's allowed now in all those parts where it was forbidden before. It is more easy to have a permit to do that, and so that's how we make better use of the existing housing stock.
Yeah, it's very related to the context of each city, and what is the housing supply in each city. So that's why at
Yeah.
energy cities we're also calling for place-based transitions. That city know the best what is best for them. So with this, I will close this webinar. Thank you very much, Mr. De Vries, for sharing Utrecht experience and insight with us today. It's very inspiring to hear how cities are finding practical solutions to balance affordability, sustainability, and quality of life. Thanks as well to the audience for following this conversation. We hope it gave you some useful ideas for your own work. And don't miss the next 1515 Mayor's Energy Talk webinar that will take place on November 19th, where Deputy Mayor from Mechelen in Belgium will tell us more about transition to a clean heating and cooling system in Mechelen. I wish you a great day. Bye-bye and tot ziens.
Tot ziens!